Hello and welcome to Prateek Chess Videos.
Hey just friends, today we are going to see a game between Tal and Koblenz in the year 1957. Let's start the game. The game started e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. Well, not exactly, but in the game was played d6, d4, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3 and knight c6. This is the classical variation of the Sicilian. Here there's some theory, but the main move is here to play bishop g5, e6, queen d2, bishop e7, long castle, and now short castle. And here we reach kind of the main main line here. So in the game here was played knight b3. Knight b3 has the idea of bishop into f6 here, bishop into f6, and then after bishop into f6, uh, queen into d6. So that is the idea. So after knight to b3, here in the game was played. Mm, well, now there are some options here, but in the game, in the game it was played queen to b6. Queen to b6 has the idea that we are on the open file here, open diagonal, and now I can also pressure sometimes with knight to g4. So that's why this move. So in the game here was played after queen b6 f3. F3 has the idea of controlling the g4 square. All right. So after f3 actually was played a6, and here in the game we can also here idea of f3 is to play g4 and then h4 attack. So that's why here a6, and now g, and now there's g4, there's many things here, but in the game was played g4. G4 has the idea h4 h5. So now rook to d8, rook to d8 defending the pawn. So here, so that no bishop into f6, then queen into d6 happen. All right. Yeah. So idea is that if bishop into f6, then there can be bishop into f6. So no queen into d6 because obviously there's rook into d6. That's why in the game it was played the move bishop e3. Bishop e3 here has the idea of attacking the queen, and now queen to c7. And now after h4, h4 is kind of a, a little bit of a bad move, a little bit of an inaccuracy because it allows some play by the opponent after b5. All right, so in the game after b5, here was played g5, knight to d7, and now Tal played an interesting move. So in the game here, it was played, well, now there are some options, but in the game it was played g6. G6 is an let's see, now g6 is an interesting move. So here after g6, um, h into g6 was played. I believe f into g6 was better here. That after h5, g into h5, rook into h5, knight to f6, rook to g5, knight to e5, and after queen to g2, bishop to f8, f4 now, and here after queen to g2, here, well, yeah, so after queen to g2, alright, so here in the game, after queen, actually here queen g2, idea of queen g2 here is that it comes here attack with this. So in the game here we can say that white has an attack, but in the game after this g6 interesting move, h into g6 was played, and then in the game was played h5. All right, so here takes now gh5, and now rook into h5, knight to f6, attacking the rook. All right, so now after knight to f6, obviously uh, here white has to do something, and white goes rook to h1. Here rook to h1 has the obvious idea of queen h2 and then queen h8 here, so that's why d5 and then e5. E5 is a kind of nice, no, interesting move we can say, because here after e5, idea of e5 to that queen into e5 is obviously not such a good choice, because after queen into e5 comes the move bishop to f4, and suddenly the queen is trapped here, because after queen f5, bishop to d3, this is just a bad sign. So here after e5, knight into e5. All right, knight into e5. Yeah, so after e5, knight into e5, in the game bishop e3, f4, and then bishop to d6. So whole thing happened here, that after queen to h2, we are getting access to the h file, and also this access is such that black is unable to prevent the queen to h8. Black may prevent mate for the time being, but he can't prevent the access to h8. That after king to f8 comes queen to h8 check, knight to g8, and now starts the real thing. So now rook h7, f5 comes. What should we play here? All right, in the game was played this nice move, bishop to h6. All right, this move is just a complex spin. See. All right, let's see who's spinning who. So this rook is spinning on c7. This bishop is spinning on f8, and this queen is spinning on the king. So overall, this g7 is the point of intersection, and this g7 pawn is under heavy attack. Because if the g7 pawn falls, then we can say that here white is completely winning, because it is like because of the g7 pawn, white's position is maintained, black's position is maintained, or else it will fall. So that's why in the game it was played the move after bishop to h6. Well, there are two moves here. Firstly, there's the move of knight to g4, and well, secondly, there's the move rook to d7. So rook to d7 has the idea here that rook to d7 has the idea here that we protect the g7 pawn, and we have here three defenders of the g7 pawn here, while white has three attackers. So only thing white needs is a second attacker, so one more attacker, so that the g7 pawn can fall. So what does white do here? Alright, you got it if you said the move. Bishop into b5. You got the point. You got the whole point. So the whole point of the move bishop into b5 here is to play rook to g1 and include one more piece in the attack. So then we will have this, and then this. So that's why that will be destroying, and actually this whole thing occurs with tempo because the d7 pawn, d7 rook is under attack. That's why. So this is really bad for black, and even if the position won't be bad, a normal player would really be just just overloaded and here mistake. But this was a training game, and here the trainer of Mikhail Tal was playing back, so he black, so he will not be retreating like this, and he plays rook to f7 with here now. Well, now pause the video and think what is the idea of black after rook to g1. Alright, black's crazy idea after rook to g1 here is to play knight to g4. Good move, and now knight to g4 is it's such an instructive tactic. Here it's the whole point. So rook to g1. Now, well, actually knight g4 is saved here. Knight g4 is like knight g4 is just saved for later. So that's why here knight g4 was not played. Firstly, black executed everything he can with no sacrifice. So here black played rook to a7. Now as we can see, the tension on g7 is rising, that there are 1, 2, 3 and 4 defenders, and 1, 2, 3 and 4 attackers. Everyone is aiming at the pawn and also defending the pawn. So here The tension is rising, and now white must find a way to do something. Here, well, one idea which gets a player's mind is bishop to e8. Well, bishop to e8 idea, king into e8, queen into g8 check, but rook to e7 is coming. And now it's really hard to do something like, I mean, bishop h5 would just be returning to normal, so that won't work here. So that's why after rook to a7, in the game it was played knight to d4. And after knight to d4, here idea of white is just here to wait. Let's see what is the idea of white. So here we'll get blitzer and then alright, so the idea of white is here to play just bishop into a6, and then bishop into a6 has the idea that see knight into f3, knight into f3, bishop f4, and here rook into h6 will come, and then after rook into e6 the whole king side will fall. So obvious idea here is that if you take on a6, then there's bishop into g7 check. If rook into g7, then comes knight into e6. So whole idea of this knight d4 is to play bishop into a6 and then knight into e6 check. So these two, the b5 bishop and the bishop and the knight form a nice, let's say a nice attacking army. So here see knight into e6, bishop into a6. The threats here are pretty much unstoppable, and now black has to execute his defense. Alright, what is black's defense? Pause the video and think. Alright, so the idea of why black's only defense left is knight to g4, and black is as resourceful as possible here. So but actually knight d4 is type of mistake, because now it allows bishop to c5, and this pins here, and after rook into g7, rook into g7, bishop into g7, queen into g7, rook into g7, rook into g7. And now if we analyze the material left, we can see here that white here has 1 2 3 pieces, while black has 4 pieces and a rook. So black has a piece and a rook, and actually black is winning a piece here, because what here should white play? I think knight c6 should be played here. Nope. Now queen to h4 here has the idea of queen to d8, and then there is this nice motive. So now king to f7, and now bishop e4, rook to g1 check, knight to d1, knight to f6, and now it is like slightly better position for white. But in the it would have stronger than if bishop into a6 would have been played, and after bishop into a6, then playing here knight to d4. So that would be the same here as everything, because now whoopsie is not this. Yeah, So knight into e6 and this, so that's the thing here. So in the game knight d4 was played and knight to g4. So this led to knight to g4 and now um, actually knight g4 doesn't solve problems for black, but it still entangles the game, because here if you see in the game it's like 0.87. So knight g4 really toughened the job for white, and now bishop to e5. Bishop to e5 has the idea here we attack the knight, so free knight can't be accepted by white, so knight c6 and now bishop into c3, b into c3, and now is the part where the most twists and turns take place. So after b into c3, yeah, so here what should be played? Well, here it was played bishop to e3. Brilliant move. What a move. I mean, seriously, you don't do anything but just play bishop to e3. That's cool. So, I mean, b into c3 also would have won, but bishop to e3 is like mm, nice way here. So bishop to e3 idea is to here play bishop to c5 check and then queen into g8. So uh, after bishop into c3, bishop to e3. Now in the game was played d4. Obvious move after d4 we attack the bishop and then rook gh1. Well, this game is obviously about leaving everything under attack. So rook to d7. Actually, rook dh1 is a nice move. So rook to d7 was forced because after d into e3, here it is played the knight's move. Queen into g8 check. Now king into g8 has to be played, and then rook to h8 is made. So now after rook to d7, in the game was played bishop to g5. Bishop to g5 here has the idea of, yeah, bishop to g5 has the crazy idea of bishop e7 check and then queen into g7. So a into b5, and now pause the video and think what should you play. Well then, in the game was played the amazing move rook 1 h6. Brilliant move. Now rook 1 h6, an amazing move. What a move. Now idea of this move here, well, is to just play the move. So all right, I think we, well, now here idea is to play rook to f6, brilliant move, and then here if g into f6, then bishop h6 check, king to e8, and then queen into g8 is a mate. So here bishop to g5, in the game was played a into b5, and now rook 1 h6. So rook 1 h6, now in the game d4, well, d3 was played. So here that's the thing. Now, well, actually, let's here do this thing. Alright, so now d3. d3 has the idea here that, well, there can be d2. What is the actually idea? This whole game is so complex. Here I think the idea of d3 is just to play d2 check, and then either play queen to g3. Queen to g3 seems good, or rook into a2 also seems good. So now d3, b into c3, and then d2 check, and then king to d1 obviously. Now queen into c6, obvious idea of queen to f3 and then mate. So rook to h6 check. There's fireworks everywhere. So such a complex game. Now rook to f7, and now queen into g7 check, and then this finally ends the roller coaster. Alright, this was the game. Just a completely amazing game. So, well, everything here started with this g6 interesting move, and then just heated up when white got the h-file. Then here came the twists and turns, and then finally it was a game. So, alright, I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.